Facebook Live, back again at Rythmia, Life Advancement Center, Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Sunny, semi-cloudy, warm as always. And I'm back again for these Facebook Lives. And we got our first, Jennifer Sodini, hello. As we start on, Julia, hello. I'm just gonna wait a few moments, take a little sip of fresh coconut, or sorry, this is pineapple juice, fresh pineapple juice. Hello, Julia, where are you coming from? As you join on, type in a hello and where you're from so that I can say, hi, Julia. Oh, so happy that you're back. Thank you. I'm happy to be back too. How was my trip? My trip was great. So maybe while we're waiting for some people to join, Tom, Julia, you're from New York City. All right, good. I'll let you know I was just in San Diego for the last 10 days or so. I held a 6-day transformational breath seminar there. This is the work I do independent of Rythmia, as well as the work I do at Rythmia is breath work, and held up my own seminar there. We maxed out at 20 people, and it was an awesome time. Just a lot of great breath work experiences. As well, just the week before I left, we had our very first breathwork week here at Rythmia. So, you know, yahoo. And now the next one's coming up, not this coming week, but the week after that. So if you're interested in the breathwork week, there's still space in that one for you. So feel free to call the number above, 866-936-9446, and talk to them about the breathwork week or any other weeks. So let's see who we got here. Tim saying, hey, Christian, see you on Sunday. Great, Tim. Make sure you reach out to me and let me know that we talked here on Facebook Live. Cynthia, yay, Chris, yay, Cynthia. Tom, of course, Falls Church. Good to see you back on there, Tom. Sonia from, where'd you say, Portugal? Beautiful. Marina, hey, we're in sync. Just bought a fresh pineapple. Hi from beautiful Okanagan. Is that how you say it? Okanagan, BC. All right. Well, we've kind of broken a record here as far as speed. I usually wait until there's 50 people, and we zoomed up to about 75, right like that. So I'm just going to jump right in here after 2 minutes. Welcome officially, everyone, to Facebook Live Breathwork Edition every week, Friday at 1 p.m. I'm here, your host, R. Christian Minson, certified transformational breath facilitator and senior trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation for the last 12 years. I am the director of the breathwork program here at Rythmia, of which we have just, as I was saying earlier, we just got our very first breathwork week here 2 weeks ago, and it was a smashing success. The next one is coming in just a week and a half, about the second week in June, breathwork week. And what this is when, well, the program here is normally 4 days of plant medicine and 3 days of breath work. For those who can't do plant medicine or medically unable or have physical conditions or on meds or psychological conditions or whatever the reason, we see that there's a large market of people who basically can't do the plant medicine and still want to come experience the transformation that Rythmia has to offer. So the Breathwork Week was developed and it was launched, as I said, just 2 weeks ago. Reportedly, 100% miracle rate, all right? Perhaps, I don't know if that's the first time in Rythmia history, but certainly first time in Breathwork history because it was the very first breath program, but that's a good way to start when you say 100% miracle rate. So people are loving it. And I'm loving that because I put a lot of blood, sweat, toil, and tears into that program. And like I said, it will be coming up again in another 2 weeks or a week and a half here. Let's see, Sonia, Rachel. Hey, Rachel just joined. Breath work 3 weeks ago. So looking forward. So for those looking forward, go. It's amazing. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for the plug for the breath work. All right, so today is the topic, balance, the law of happiness. And I thought I'd do this topic. It's one that maybe will go a little quicker, but we'll see. I'm certainly open to answering anybody's questions. So if you've got questions, type them in the chat bar. This is where the chat bar is on my screen. Hopefully it's the same on yours. Type them in there. I will answer your questions about Rythmia, about life, about breath work. I didn't mention in this opener, but I was a monk for 10 years, so I'm happy to answer questions about the spiritual life, the monastic life. I'm happy to get little hearts and likes across the page if you want to send those as well. Larry's coming in from St. Louis. Beautiful. Tina from Finland, I know, is here. So great, Tina. Nice to see you. On. Turn off my phone so it doesn't make buzzing noises. All right. So here we go. Asen, he has joined. Hi, Asen from London, I know. Andrea all right, Andrea is making me wait here. You said from where, Andrea? All right. So back to our topic. Our topic today is balance, the law of happiness. And I felt like, this was a great topic because especially coming off of a week of being away at Rythmia, I recognized how much that we need time away, basically. And that was a balancing thing. Now, I also realized that going from working at Rythmia to working in San Diego was a change, but maybe not as much balance as I had hoped to gain. In other words, having some work and then having some rest and relaxation. But, I thought this was a good topic because I see two main things happening out there in life with people in general. That we're either trying to hoard all the good so that when we're feeling joy or happiness or things that bring us that, we try to get as much as we can. It's like it's almost like this mentality, even on a subconscious level, where it's like, I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to feel this good or have this opportunity or whatever, so I've got to hoard it all now. And unfortunately, there seems to be diminishing returns. The more that we hoard, the less satisfying those things tend to become. And then the other extreme is that people tend to avoid the negative. We try to push away the negative or stuff it down, try not to acknowledge it so that we can focus on hoarding that good, right? And so this is also takes us out of balance because it's like throwing more and more trash in the trash pile without actually processing that trash. So eventually you've got this huge trash pile that needs something to be done with. So let's see, Cynthia, you'll be out in what's that fun in a 5-pound bag? All right, I gotta read this. 10 pounds of fun in a 5-pound bag. All right, that's a statement I'm not quite understanding. Self-absorption. All right, are people hard to find balance amidst the chaos? Important work, self-absorption. Yeah, good, Andrea. Just kind of agreeing here or responding along with the class. Good. So from the perspective of balance, I was thinking about life, and I feel like everything is on a continuum. Like there's a great symbol. See if I got a pen here that I could write this symbol down. You may have seen what we call the yin yang symbol. Who's seen or heard of that before? it's basically like this. You can see it there, yin yang. Except one side is usually black, and then the other side's white, and then where the black is, there's a white dot, and where the white is, there's a black dot. So this is a great symbol for the balance of the universe. First of all, it's a symbol that means, you know, the whole of life is split into the coming together of the dualities, the darkness and the light, the good and the bad, the beautiful and the ugly, the, you know, hot and cold, whatever it is, it's the combination of the two that makes the whole. So right there, we get a concept that if we hoard one, you know, if we hoard this side and try to eliminate that side, we throw ourselves out of balance. And vice versa. If we hoard this side but try to avoid that side, again, it doesn't give us the whole. Now, another great thing about this symbol is, and if I should probably make it more color oriented. So real quick, I'm drawing in colors, which basically is like this. There we go, black and white, white and black. The other part of this symbol, which I think is really cool, really insightful, so much information can be loaded in one symbol. But here, even in the half that's darkness, that says that there's always a little light within the darkness. Or over here, even when you're immersed in the light, there's a balance of a little bit of darkness, all right? Or if that's good and bad, or happiness and sadness. There's always a little sadness there and happiness, or there's always a little happiness even though you might be feeling really sad. So hard to see. Here's the yin yang symbol, all right? Can we see it there? It is the dualistic symbol of how the dualistic nature of life comes together and makes the whole, all right? So we're so this is a reminder that there's a balance of life. The good and the bad, the dark and the light dance in a intricate dance that creates the beauty of life. It's not about all light and no darkness. Then we don't have the wholeness there. It's not about all joy, you know, all joy and no sadness. As we know, life has these things, and the more that we can embrace it all, which is part of what balance is really recognizing how all of our life experiences fit in with each other. Thanks, Leslie, saying what a great way to explain that. Padmini, hey, is saying great explanation. Beautiful, good. I'm glad we're on point. So, so think about this in the different dimensions of our lives with physical health. You know, if we work out too little, like we don't take care of our physical health, we become sickly, we become weak. You know, that's pretty obvious, right? But if we work out too much, or we take too much focus on the physical life, we tend to become inflexible. Have you ever seen those big old muscle guys who that's all they do? It's like, yeah, they've really built their physical being up on one level, but ask them to touch their toes. You know, they can go about to their stomach with their hands and such, because they've lost that flexibility. So they've gone too far to the extreme of overindulging. As well, if we overindulge in our physical being, you know, we spend a lot of focus on that. We tend to shortchange our mental, emotional, and our spiritual side of life. All right, so, and let's get into mental, emotional, and spiritual life. So if we're, you know, with emotions, if we're too not expressive enough with our emotions, then we become unfeeling, right? We don't have a real relationship to emotions. But then if we are overly expressive with our emotions, if we let them express too much, they tend to overpower us and we become controlled by those emotions. So there's this delicate midpoint that we're striving for. Okay, with our intelligence, with our mental state, too little thought is usually a lack of intelligent consideration. If we don't think enough, then we get ourselves into trouble just because we don't make very rational decisions and such. But again, if we use our thinking too much, we become overcritical, over analytical, and everything becomes, this pros cons list, or something where we lose the emotional dimension of our lives, and we become more automatons and robotic in our lives. So again, we're trying to bring that into the delicate middle ground. Not too little, not too much. Like a Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. This porridge is just right. All right, so our lives, we're looking always for that just rightness, which is right in the middle. And so going back to that yin-yang, right in the middle means a balance of light and dark, a balance of good and bad, supposedly bad, a balance of happiness and sadness, which when we say a balance there, we mean that the sadness is part of happiness. Remember, the little dot in the bigger space means that there's always a little bit of that, that balancing element in, even when we're fully immersed in the other element. In this case, happiness and sadness, as we're just talking about. What else can I say? As far as that continuum goes, think about, now I'm not a medical doctor, so this is more of a philosophical viewpoint from this, but I believe that all conditions, emotional and mental conditions, are part of the continuum. So those who suffer from, say, depression, it's not a unique thing to have depression. We all are capable of depression. Depression, let's draw another point here. Let's see. So this would be the end point. So depression is way here at the end of the spectrum. As you get here, there's normal sadness, and then, as you go, there's actually happiness, and then there's elated bliss, right? So that's the continuum. Most of us dwell somewhere in the middle here, where we're a little bit sad, sometimes a lot sad. Maybe we touch on depression, but then we come back again. So a balanced life, a normal life, flows back and forth on this continuum. All right. When they say we suffer from depression, what that means in this sense is that we find ourselves more or less stuck on this side of the seesaw, on the darker side, and not moving fluidly back and forth. So we're staying in this zone. Now, of course, sometimes there's chemical reasons for that to happen, and where our body chemistry has to be corrected through medical means in order to maintain that balance. But for most of us, I would say that depression, in this case, is a curable thing, because it's not really something that needs to be cured. It's just something that needs to become aware of, that we're dwelling in here. Our life is some way out of balance, so it's keeping us stuck in that depression zone. So we start to look at other elements of our lives, like, I know, for instance, physical activity. If I don't get enough physical activity, not too much, right, but the right amount, if I'm getting too little, it actually starts to throw my psychological makeup out of balance too. So I'll tend to go towards that depression area in my emotional field, and that's a sign. I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling good. What's going on? And then I start to look at my life and see them in balance, or see that I'm out of balance and find ways to correct that. Let's see. So it's the same. Bipolar is a similar sort of thing. We're all bipolar because the continuum has two poles. We're happy on one pole, or sort of the manic pole, the depressive pole. So we go back and forth. And again, most of us will go back and forth in this medium range, and sometimes go here and sometimes go way out here. But those that are labeled bipolar are ones that tend to make that full swing a lot more frequently. And so when you realize that, you start to look at the other elements of your life that are in or out of balance. As we bring those things in balance, a lot of times you can find that your mental activity will start to find this medium range, this balanced range. Okay? Have I ever been depressed? And if so, how did you deal with it? Yes, I was depressed, and one time, and I dealt with it with a lot of drugs, basically. Marijuana, alcohol, all those kind of things. And and what do you think that did? That threw me into more imbalance. I'm going this way, generally speaking, with depression. Threw me into more imbalance and kept me in that depressive state. In fact, that's part of my whole story of coming into the spiritual life and then coming into breath work was this, my life had been so out of balance basically because I'd been repressing my emotions. All right. Since I was young, I didn't come from a very expressive family. I didn't know how to express my emotions very well. And as such, I held them in. And as I hold my emotions in, I got moody. And those moods were an indication that something's out of balance. That all this emotional energy that needed expression and release was being held on to. Those moods continued to fester into depression, where I really, I would say I contemplated, what it would be like to end my life. There was a point there. Fortunately, that didn't last very long, but I know for others that's something that seriously comes up and stays with you for a while. These are all flags that say something's out of balance here. Don't think that you're just a helpless victim, that now life is terrible or that you can't do anything about it. Look at these things as signs that are telling you that likely your life is out of balance. And when you start to correct things, like in my case, so what did I do about it? Basically, I discovered meditation, and then I discovered breath work. And these were both ways to help me balance my outer life. What I was doing a lot was investing too much in the outer life. And this is probably what 99% of us do, is invest in this outer life. We're told to go out there, get that job, go out there, make that money, go out there, buy that house, get the new car, get that girlfriend or boyfriend, make them your wife or son, get your 2.5 kids, live the life with the white picket fence. So we're always outwardly focused. And that then takes us to this side of the spectrum. And we forget that our life is a balance between outer and inner worlds. And so I started, I had all this focus on this outer world, and especially my emotional states. I started working with meditation and breath work, and it started to correct the balance. It started giving me a taste of my inner life. And eventually I had enough of that experience that let's see, here we go. This is tilting that way. And then it started to tilt back, and, I became balanced. So those were some of the methods that I used. And here, again, it's not like there's some earth-shattering remedy that nobody's ever heard about out here. It's taking the common sense understanding that life is always seeking a balance. And that balance is basically, when we're in balance, we have this sense of contentment, the sense of feeling good, the sense of well-being. If we're out of that, then that's a signal to help alert us to looking at where in our lives are we out of balance. And then we make those corrections. And so if, for instance, I was making the point that I start to get agitated and all that when I'm not physically exercising enough. So when I feel that agitation come on, I feel an imbalance in my mental equilibrium, my even-mindedness. Then I start to look, oh, I haven't been working out for the last couple of weeks. And I start getting into that routine again, and it starts to balance me out. So one, it takes understanding what things need to be in balance. And we're just going over that, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And then, how you find yourself getting out of balance. In my case, if I'm not expressing myself enough emotionally, if I'm not working out physically, if I'm not meditating regularly, these things will tend to throw me out of balance. And then when I'm out of balance, those are the things that I'll look at first. I'll say, am I doing those things? If I am, then I'll dig a little bit deeper. But if I'm not, I know right away what to correct. So let's see what we're saying here. Debbie Garcia joined. Great. Dusan, thank you for reminding me. Beautiful. Thank you for answering that honestly. Appreciate that, Padmini. And Cynthia, I'm grateful for you too. And Debbie, yeah, you're back. So I got to meet with Debbie while I was in San Diego, and I do try to connect with people out there who are wanting to connect with me, and probably the easiest way is through liking me on Facebook or becoming my friend on Facebook, R. Christian Minson on Facebook. The one thing I ask if you do friend me is that you send me a message along with friending me that lets me know where we're connected. Like, I saw you on Facebook Live, so I'm reaching out as a friend. If you don't do that, there's a chance that I won't answer that friend request, because I'm not sure, out of the hundreds of people that try to friend me, who's just hitting the friend button and who seriously wants to connect. All right, so I do want to connect with those who seriously want to connect. So we're talking about that balance with mental, emotional issues, spiritual balance. Too little, as I mentioned, too little focus on your spirituality, and you start to become outwardly focused. You're very materialistic, very driven by material life, and a little bit out of touch with the true nature of harmony and reality. Of course, if you're overly spiritual, then where you're putting all your eggs in that basket, you tend to become a little out of touch with physical reality. This I saw all the time in the monastic life. People became what we call bliss bunnies, where your head was in the clouds and your feet were in the clouds too. We used to have a saying, you have the head in the clouds, but have your feet firmly planted on the ground. That's a great statement for balance, right? So you got your head in the clouds, you are recognizing how much loftier you are than your whole physical being, and yet your feet are firmly planted on the ground. You realize that the physical dimension of your being is an important one to keep healthy, well, alive, and you want to keep those two aspects in balance, your physical being and your spiritual being. All right? So what does balance look like? It'd be great if theoretically the balance is finding that middle point and staying right on it, right? And you just toe the straight and narrow. But enough experience in life, which I know we've all had, shows that balance is really a sense of tacking back and forth. All right, so this is good news in that we want to give ourselves permission not to be on that straight and narrow path, because rarely are we actually on it. But that narrow path becomes the median line for us to move back and forth. Have you ever sailed a sailboat? This is a great analogy. And I'm in San Diego. I didn't get to do it this time, but I like to go sailing in a little 16-footer. It's about the largest size I can manage without getting into serious trouble. But when you want to go somewhere, so I'm like, this is the point I want to go to. there's, of course, there's the straight line to get there, but the wind, the wind may be blowing this way. So to get there, if I try to go straight there, all I'm going to do is blow off to the side. So you got to set your sails so you move forward. You're kind of going that way, but then you tack the sails so that you move across this way. You cross the threshold and you go too far the other way, too far in the sense that we lost the middle line. But then you tack again, and that middle line is what you're constantly tacking against. So eventually you arrive at your destination. You just didn't do it in a beeline straight line. All right, so, and Daniel's saying, permission not to be perfect, but the swinging back and forth is perfect. Exactly. So perfect. And Daniel, I'll miss you too, Daniel. And Jeff Clark, you just joined. Excellent. So this idea, this tacking back and forth is the nature of life and is the nature of balance. So understand that, as one great mind used to tell me, moderation in everything, including moderation, right? That makes a lot of sense, right? So if you're a Nazi for moderation, then even your attempts to be moderate become extreme. But so you got to loosen up there. In this case, balance in everything, including being out of balance. So being out of balance is part of being in balance. All right, so that may be a little bit difficult for the mind to chew on, but if you remember this analogy, so when we're in balance, we're tacking between the two poles, the two extremes. We're not going way extreme and way extreme. Though sometimes that happens, and that's I'll get to that when we get to the program in Rythmia and how this helps us keep our balance. Balance is also really a sense of even-mindedness. More than anything external to you, your balance is how you're feeling on the inside. And if you're wondering if you're in balance or not, just check and see how even-minded you are in that moment, how even your emotions are in that moment. And that's going to tell you. Sometimes your life may be extremely out of whack externally, but if you can keep that even-mindedness, then you're tacking, but you're tacking in much larger swings. All right, but as long as you're keeping those swings, you're generally going to have that sense of even-mindedness. Now, if you tack too far and you keep going, and you find yourself getting out of that even-mindedness, you find yourself disturbed, you find yourself angry, you find yourself, in emotional straits, then you've gone too far, and that's a signal to start tacking back the other way. So it's constantly reading these signals and learning to flow in and out between the two until when we get really good at it, we tend to tack like this. So our swings aren't quite as extreme. So we're swinging back and forth, and we can get to our destination much quicker. All right. Balance also is a certain sense of detachment, I'd say. Learning to, again, you swing way over here, don't get all upset about it. Just recognize that it's sending you the signals that you've gone too far and need to start going this way. And if you go too far this way, don't get your panties in a bunch, as they say certain places. Let that be the signal to help bring you back on track. Right, so a certain amount of detachment helps keep you in balance. Again, detachment's one of those things. Too much detachment and you're feelingless. Too little detachment and you're attached. You're too affected by everything. So we're finding even within that sense of detachment, there's a balance point. Everything really has this golden middle point. If we look in life that way, we'll start to see that anything we move towards can be too much if we keep moving towards it and keep trying to get more of it. And that goes a long way to start alleviating a lot of the ills of society, because we just keep moving towards wanting more. More is better, bigger is better. Trade up, keep going, keep acquiring more stuff, keep making more money. And again, that, within the balance realm, that's good. There's actually been studies proven that, say, from about $30,000 a year to about, somebody said 70,000, somebody said 150,000. If you earn that much money, getting more money is going to improve your life. But beyond 150,000, you start earning more money than that, it actually starts to decrease the quality of life. Or it doesn't add any more positive quality of life having that much more money. This is a study that's been done. So there we go. Having too much can throw you out of balance. So we're always looking for that middle point. Sounds good. What's moderation? Yeah. All right, Jeff. I'll let you come here and drink some ayahuasca and tell me if you figure out what moderation is. That's interesting about detachment. Having a negative makes total sense. Oh yeah, detachment having a negative too. Yeah, great, Daniel. All right, so let's see. Example here, financial balance, right? If you're not, don't spend too much or don't hoard too much. If you spend too much, you go into debt. You're racking up those credit card bills. I know a lot of people know what I'm talking about out there. But then you don't spend anything. You hoard all your money. You stop the flow, and you might have a big chunk of what what you've earned, but it's not helping you generate more. So there's, again, this balance between spending too much or not spending enough. So there is this thing where we put some out there, spend within your means. And there's formulas that I've seen with other thought leaders. It's like use 50% for your income, for your necessities, 10% for long-term savings, 10% for to charity, 10% for fun, 10% for educational means. So there what you can find a balance within your financial life. Don't be a squirrel with your money. Yeah, exactly. You need to. There's a certain amount that that is good to keep in circulation. Think about life as a flow, and again, that the balance of that flow is that if we hold on to anything, we restrict that flow. We start to bring that flow to a trickle. If we open up the gates, maybe it all flows at once, but then we run out, or too much is flowed out, so we're left with very minimal reserves. So work and play balance, critical. We think, work, keep working. This is one of the, Stephen Covey did the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7th habit was sharpening the saw, which meant to take time to relax, to regenerate. When you go back in to work, you're that much more effective. And I felt this on both sides of the spectrum. Where I haven't done that, I kept pushing myself. There starts to be diminishing returns. Yeah, you're working all the time, so in hours, you're getting more work hours in, but as far as your effectiveness, my focus was off, my tiredness level went up, my accuracy started to diminish. So as far as being an effective worker, it started to have negative returns by continuing to work. By just taking some time off, by unplugging, giving yourself time to regenerate. That may be a day, that may be a weekend, that may be that you need a week off, whatever it is. you plug back in and you're refreshed and renewed, and you can work twice as hard, twice as fast, twice as whatever for taking that time off. And so the net result is that you're actually more productive. Right? So again, this is the law of balance at play. Your productivity, your happiness, your life is better if you learn to play the balance rather than go to the extreme of what you think is most important in your life. Intuition is a great part. Intuition is considered the balance between perfect reasoning and perfect feeling. So think about that. Not too much thinking. If you're too much thinking, you're getting overly analytical, and it starts to be, have you ever, somebody who has all the answers on paper, but when you lay that paper over reality, you're like, this, it looks great on paper, but no way is it match actual reality, right? So that's too much thinking. And then too much feeling is, tends to take you on a roller coaster of emotions. So you're never quite sure what's true because those emotions are always changing with the wind. So you bring into balance your thinking and your feeling, and there at the meeting point, that balance point is where intuition is born. It's like this sense, this feeling that comes out, but then it's checked by rational reasoning. You got this feeling that would be great exhilarating to jump off this cliff, but your rational mind says, well, let's think this through a minute. The cliff has rocks below, not water. Maybe not such a good idea. All right, so that's your intuition kicking in and saying no good. But say it's a big cliff and there's a big pool of water below, and intuitively it's like your feelings like, yes, let's do this, and your mind's like, check, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Boom, you go. All right, so this is perhaps not the greatest illustration, but hopefully that gives you a sense of intuition and how it's really the merging of that feeling and that reason. And like I said, the spirituality, our balance of spirituality is really the concept to be in the world but not of it. It's kind of like wearing clothes. Like your clothes are you for the day, but they aren't you, but they're part of you for the day, right? But at the end, you take off those clothes, you can put new clothes on. So in a way, our life, our whole physical being is the clothing for our soul, and we want to be in it. So we're wearing this body like it's some fine duds that we picked up, and we don't want to mess up too much. But we also recognize that this body is not who we are, so that so that we can stay in balance with the true nature of our reality, which is that inner soul nature. So I was going to say, I bring all this up because Rythmia is a place where we try to bring people back into balance. Or one of the things, let's say this is not necessarily our end game, but one of the reasons people come here is to bring their lives back into balance. They've gotten too far off with addictions. They've gotten too far off with depressions or mental patterns that aren't serving them anymore. And they're looking to come back into balance. And sometimes, the program at Rythmia is really just a program of reflection, meaning that it shows you, one of the first tenets is show me who I become. And sometimes if you become somebody that's way out of balance, the program itself is going to feel extreme. It's going to feel like it takes you way off that center line. That's because it's counteracting the amount of out of balance that you arrived with, if that makes sense, right? So you're way out of balance here. The program is like extreme to in order to get that energy worked out to bring you back to that balanced middle line. Okay? This is done with the plant medicine especially, and the plant medicine can be a little more punchy, let's say, than the breath work, but the breath work is also a tool, and this is why I bring it up in this Facebook Live, that when we work to balance the breath, it has a balance in our lives. So by a balanced breath, we want to take a full inhale, we want to be relaxed when we exhale, and we want to keep that breath circular and fluid. These are the elements of a balanced breath pattern. If we're taking in too much or too little air, that throws us out of balance. If we push the exhale, or we're forcing it, that tends to throw us out of balance. And if we're jerky or halting, where with long pauses or unconsciously we hold our breath for long periods of time, that again throws us out of balance. It throws our breathing out of balance, and that will have effects on our lives to be out of balance. The great thing is we bring our breath into balance. We take this full but relaxed inhale. We do an easeful, relaxed exhale, and we keep the breath circular and fluid. This starts to set in motion, energetic motion, balance in our lives. So things that are out of balance, like if we've been efforting too much to release negativity in our lives, by relaxing that exhale, we're actually starting to bring those efforts into balance, so we don't have to try so hard. If we don't feel like we've been getting enough out of life, or life's just not doing us enough good, by taking those full deep inhales, we start to set those wheels in motion to draw more of that into our lives. And by keeping that breath connected and fluid, it's like we keep our lives connected to the concepts that are most important to us. We don't find, when we hold our breath, it's like the sailboat tacked off course for a while until we start breathing again, and then we can tack it back. So if we keep it fluid, it's like inhale, exhale, inhale, we stay tacking along that balance line. Ready to be balanced. See you Sunday. All right, Jenny. Andrea says, yes, getting older really affirms this. Ain't that the truth? That meaning about, I need to hear that. Perfect. And this is, the last thing I'll say about balance is, what you can do until you get here and you start working the program to bring you back into balance is look at your life. It should be a balance of the different dimensions: your physical life, your spiritual life, your emotional life. And make sure you're giving a little bit of time to each of those each day. Or if it's not each day, that one day you focus on spirit, the next day you focus on emotions, the next day you focus on physical, and go through that again. Some life coaches also see there's the financial dimension, there's the social dimension, there's the work dimension of your life, there's the the life aspirations dimension. Did I already say relationships? So a number of dimensions that are like this wheel, and they have you. I've had coaches before, check how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you in each of these dimensions of life. And then you look at it and you see what your wheel is shaped like, and usually there's a big spike in some place and all, and so that if you imagine that's the wheel of your life going ka-chunk, 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 you realize why you're feeling out of balance, because these elements are out of balance. So you can start to shore up the ones that are a little bit lower, and you can maybe not spend so much time working on those that you've got under control real well. So spend a little bit of time each day on those things that are most important to you, instead of like focusing on one and going to the extreme there, thinking you've got that under control. But then you look back and you see that the 5 other elements of your life have been neglected. And so even though this one's strong now, the rest aren't. Bring them all along. So it may just be like this far, but you've got them all in balance. And then you go this far and this far and this far. So that's that's going to be a hint to help you stay in balance until you can get to some place like Rythmia or a breathwork retreat or something like that to help you more intensively achieve that balance. So let's check in here. This is more or less what I had to say on that. If you got any other questions, other comments. Andrea says, seems like I do this in different areas, not every day. So how do you feel? Andrea, about your life in general? Does it feel like you're in balance since you do that, or you feel like you're still a little bit out of balance? Tom says, very useful advice. Good. And so Cynthia, words of wisdom. Steph Thompson just joined. Well, hi, Steph. Unfortunately, it's getting close to the end here, so you'll probably have to catch the rest of it on YouTube or when the recording goes up. And Padmini, you did great today. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining in. And I'll just say that I appreciate, let's use this theme of balance again and say that these Facebook Lives are a balance between me talking at you, the information that I've got planned to speak to you, and you feeding back. Just think, if any of your relationships aren't going well, there's probably an imbalance of communication, right? Somebody's not sending enough signals, or somebody's not receiving those signals, or both is going on. And that's, so in this case, these Rythmia Lives are really a balance between you asking questions and me talking at you and giving you the information I think is important for you. So I appreciate all of those of you who come forward and ask those questions. It is continuous work to find that balance as life happens. Good point there, Cynthia. Yes, it's continuous work. There's another law of the universe, and that's the law of maintenance. Have you ever heard that law? Basically, that means anything that starts in motion needs maintenance to stay in motion. Nothing in motion is going to last forever, right? It's think of a car. You got a new car, and you keep driving that car and driving that car. Eventually, the car is going to break down if you don't maintain it, right? So everything, and this is the same with any endeavor in life. You want a relationship. You get in a good relationship. That relationship's only going to stay good forever unless you bring some maintenance to it. You continually check in. You continually repair the little holes in the relationship. It's the same thing with work. You get a good job, and you think, all right, now I can just smooth sail. No, that's not going to happen. You've got to keep always maintaining it. You've always got to add more into it. It's always going to be a little bit of effort. Effort is the grease that oils the wheel, so to speak. So trying to dance through it. Yeah, that's good. It's continuous work to find that balance. That's what we were just talking about. And Padmini is saying, but it's needed. Yes, always need that alignment. And Linda is saying, yes, everything in this world is a bit of a balancing act. Relationships, work, and play. Great. Andrea's, darn it. Yeah, this is the reality of life, is to wake up and realize that we weren't born into something where we could just lay back and let life happen to us and everything would be great. You can lay back, and again, here's the balance. There's the balance between efforting, which is, too much effort will drive us to an early grave. It'll give us high blood pressure. It will cause us a lot of stress and anxiety. Too little effort will make us a couch potato. We'll start to, we won't have enough inertia to realize our dreams, things like that. So we could use, take anything in your life and start applying the lens of balance to it and see, am I doing this too much? Am I doing this too little? Am I feeling this too much? Am I feeling this too little? Where is that balance point? And that balance point you're going to find when you come to an even-mindedness, when your mind is not agitated overly so, and when your heart comes to an even-minded, even-heartedness, let's say, where it's not being agitated or thrown into extremes. So, all right, so I'm getting Padmini saying gotta go, and I gotta go too. Next stop, monthly meeting here at Rythmia. So I hope this has been helpful, this talk on balance. I'm R. Christian Minson. Remember, if you want to follow up on anything personally, just friend me, the letter R, Christian and Minson. And when you do friend me, though, send a message that says why you're friending me, so that I have some knowledge of where you came from. With that, I'll tune in. We'll see you next week. I should catch the other Rythmia Lives. I think, what is this? Today's Friday. Tomorrow's I Got Your Miracle with Jerry, interviewing somebody from Rythmia this week. Sunday is Meg, marvelous, miraculous Meg with her miracle meals, our chef here, doing something on Sunday. And then Monday, I think, is Dr. Jeff doing his talk. So you've got a whole 4 days full of Rythmia Lives that you can catch each week. All right, so Cynthia, thank you from Houston. Thank you in Houston, Cynthia. And Andrea, thank you. Linda, thanks. See you all soon. And Padmini, everybody else, until next time, namaste and work that balance.